Hello and welcome, everybody. I'm Elena Magrini, and I'm head of global research here at Lightcast, and I'm delighted to be your moderator for today's session, Beyond the Buzz, the AI skills that make the difference. Every day we hear conversation about AI and how that is going to disrupt the labor market. But behind these conversations, there are real workers, educators, businesses, policymakers. They're trying to figure out what to do in practice and how to navigate this change. And this is exactly why we are here today and why at Lightcast we have recently published new research Beyond the Buzz to look at the AI skills that employers need. And that's also why I'm here today with our two fantastic speakers and guests to discuss how they're making this changing and these changes happening in real life, in practice, in their organizations. So before we start, let's run a few housekeeping on how the hour will work. If you have any questions during today's event, please put them in the Q&A. You'll find that in the right of the chat window, and we'll try to get to your questions in the Q&A portion of the conversation. And before we start, let's have a first poll. You can find this poll also on the right of the chat window in the poll feature, but we want to ask you something related to AI, as you can imagine. And the question here is, what's your organization biggest challenge right now with AI? And you're going to see a few different options on the screen, such as knowing which skills actually matter, finding and training talent, keeping up with the pace of change, or number 4, aligning education and workforce needs. So we'll give you a few moments to answer the poll, which is your organization biggest challenge right now with AI. And while you answer the poll, I'll take this opportunity to introduce the two guests that are joining me today on this webinar. The first up is Giuseppe Cinque. Giuseppe is principal architect at the Cisco Networking Academy, where he leads a team shaping curriculum in emerging technologies like Internet of Things, cloud, and AI. And the work he does as a goal to prepare learners for the jobs of the digital era. Giuseppe has over 25 years experience across networking, cybersecurity, data science, and he was the first Cisco certified academy instructor in Italy and co-founded a startup that became one of European leaders in driverless metro systems. He brings in both a technical background and a business background, and I'm delighted to have you here with us, Giuseppe.
Thank you for having me, Elena. Thank you for kind words.
And then we also have with us Dr. Sunay Palsol. Sunay is Assistant Vice Chancellor for Remote Engineering Education at Texas A&M University. He also has over 25 years of experience in academic technology, and he leads the development of innovative strategies for remote engineering education, building market-driven programs and a portfolio of stackable certificates that expand access and opportunity. Sunay was recognized among the Center for Digital Education's top 30 technologies, transformers, and trailblazers in 2016, and is actively involved into national debates around this topic, and as a board member of APSIA, and as part of the Executive Committee for Texas A&M Council for Academic Technology and Innovative Education. Welcome, Sunay.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you both. And again, I'm Elena Magrini, and I'm excited to be your host for the day. Today's session will start with some of the insights from the Lightcast new report Beyond the Buzz. But before we get started, let's look at some of the poll results. Okay, so what's your organization's biggest challenge right now with AI? Okay, so it's an overwhelmingly majority for the answer 4, aligning education and workforce needs. And a few people also mentioning the knowing which skills to train for. So that's great and actually fits very nicely with the conversation that we're going to have today. As you are familiar with like us, or if you don't know, we've done a lot of work in this space throughout the last few months. We've looked at the impact on skills. We looked at global trends on AI. We had a deep dive on US insights with Stanford. And there have been more and more reports on AI, also done by our partners, looking at different elements of the impact of AI on the labor market, both in the US and on a global scale. But across all this research that we have done, and in every conversation that we had with our customer, there was always one big question that was being asked. And this question is, so what? What actions can I take now to prepare my employees or my students for the future of work? Which, if you think about it, is not too dissimilar from the overwhelmingly majority that puts that as the biggest challenge in the poll just now. And so that's where Beyond the Buzz really comes in as a research. We wanted to go beyond the headline, beyond the buzz, to try and understand what are the practical skills that employers actually need and how to train for them. And if that wasn't enough of a reason to look into this, I just want to highlight for you the 3 key findings from this report that, in my mind, really set the scene when it comes to why this research matters and why we need to talk about it. The first finding from the research is that AI job does not mean tech job. What we are seeing is that increasingly the number of jobs that mention AI skills is increasing in occupation and roles outside tech. And in fact, now we are seeing more of the jobs mentioning AI skills outside of IT. Not just that, but the AI skills that we are seeing being mentioned by employers also carry a high salary compared to normal or other jobs. And that salary premium is of around 28%. If we want to talk dollar terms, that's $18,000 a year. So AI jobs are becoming popular everywhere in the labor market. They're highly valued by employers. They're willing to pay a premium for them. But, and that's one of the things that we analyze a lot in the report, different job functions and different career areas are at different stages of adoptions when it comes to AI. And so this is what we really need to understand if we want to be prepared for these changes. And this is where the focus of the report really is in terms of understanding what are the skills that we should teach right now in order to prepare workers and young people for the labor market of the future, which will be driven by AI. Before I tell you everything about AI skills, I want to take a pause and highlight for a moment that when we're thinking about an AI future and when we're thinking about AI jobs, these jobs do not only require AI skills. So the people that will work in the AI field in the future, but also every one of us who will need AI skills in the future, won't just need AI skills. We will need AI skills plus a common foundation, a common layer of other skills, some of them called human skills. In a work we've done recently with American Succeed, we call them durable skills. But these are skills such as communication, management, and leadership that will continue to be super important in the labor market, even going forward. Beyond these foundations, there are differences in terms of specific AI skills requirements across the labor market. So we see some AI skills as we analyze them using our Lightcast skills taxonomy that are being requested right across job functions. And those are, for example, general terms around AI and machine learning. But beyond that, every single job function has its own nuances. And so, for example, we see that content creation is really enhanced by AI and generative AI, and that is high in demand in marketing and design. Whereas instead, other areas such as engineering have a bigger focus on other type of AI skills. And this is really where we started thinking about the concept of creating an AI skill disruption matrix. We know that AI jobs will require a bundle of skills, not just AI skills. and that the value of these skills and how they're growing over time will affect their importance for that job career function. And so what we did, we plotted for different type of roles the top 50 skills that are being required right now in the labor market based on their skill value, so whether they have a high value or a lower value, and based on whether they're growing or declining in the labor market. And we put them into 4 different boxes, and then we color coded them based on how exposed to AI they are. We did this for 5 career areas, and because we don't have the time to look at all of them, I'm just going to give you a quick sneak peek for human resources. So we mapped what are the roles within human resources that require AI the most, what type of example of applications we see for AI in human resources, and then the matrix itself with some practical recommendations. So, for example, when it comes to HR, talent acquisition and training specialists are among the roles that are most in urgent need for AI skills. And the type of skills are both about building AI literacy, but also not AI skills, but related to the common durable skills that are needed for these roles. And likewise, we have done something similar for education and training, where we see that it is the people that are planning the curriculum that are the ones most affected by AI. And again, we mapped the skills for this group to try and understand what were the priorities for AI. And we see, for example, that one of the immediate focus for education and training is around prioritizing AI training related to curriculum development, but also the importance of comprehensive AI literacy right across. So what does this all mean in practice? Now what? And this is where I'm going to start bringing in some, my 2 guests. But before I bring them in, let me just set the context for it. So what? So we know that AI is something that we all now need to think about, and that while there is a base layer of AI skills that everyone needs to know, there are also different nuances for different jobs and career functions. And so that means that we all need to work together, both in terms of public sector, and education, to find ways to update training and aligning training to the labor market in a way that is data-driven and evidence-based. And this is exactly what Cisco and Texas A&M have been doing. And also we have in the report some other insights, for example, from, again, Cisco and Guild, who's also using Lightcast data to identify which skills matter. But now, moving on to our guests, I'd like to first ask Sune to bring him into the conversation and give us a little bit of an overview of the remote engineering education programs at Texas A&M University and what are your priorities. So give us a sense of what you're doing.
Thank you. So what we are trying to do here is we have mainly focused on graduate education of the engineering market, right? And so we have an entire cadre of programs that run from master's degrees, certificates to master's degrees to doctoral programs, and that are all offered online. And of course, our main goals are to make sure that we are industry aligned. And industry, we define industry very broadly. So when you think about research, people getting into we are trying to train people to be future faculty, but we cannot do without faculty. You think about research deeply and or examining the theoretical lenses that we should look at things through. So that's also part of industry. And so therefore we design programs to make sure that we meet the needs of whichever industry the student is wanting to go into. So it could be the higher education industry. It's an industry, there's no doubt about it. There's, of course, traditionally what we think of as industry is manufacturing or healthcare or any other parts and pieces of it. Energy, for example, is very big for us in Texas. And importantly, provide some kind of scaffolded way of learning so that they have, I love the word durable skills. We talk about durable skills because it's all about making sure that you understand the core concepts of everything you're doing. Once you understand the core, then everything else you can build off of the core. So essentially, we have more than 16 programs at the master's level, about 7 certificates that all stack into degrees, and then PhD programs. All of them.
Thanks. That's a very helpful introduction and really sets the scenes for my next question, which is around how you're using labor market data to trying to understand what to prioritize and how to align your curriculum with what the labor markets wants.
So there's two different ways we do this, right? So when we look at labor market data, we're using it in two ways. One is when we are looking at creating a new certificate or a degree program, we definitely look at the labor market data to help us think through what skills are being looked at are needed now. And we also, besides what Lightcast gives us, we also reach out to our industry advisory boards to see what they think is going to be the need in the future. So we can essentially then jigsaw the information we get from what's in the market now, which is what Lightcast does a great job of. And then we can match that to Bureau of Labor Statistics, what they say the upcoming future looks like, and then also collate that with data we get from our industry partners. So that's how we take those labor market data to try and build new programs. And similarly, the programs need updating, and it's especially at the certificate level because they're designed to be a very credential you can attain quite quickly compared to a full degree program. We have to make sure that they're always market driven because they are definitely built for the market. Because we heard many years ago that people wanted their engineers to be upskilled in a very specific area, for example. So let's just put digital design, and they did not have the wherewithal in time and money sometimes to send people off to get a degree for an entire 2 or 3 years. So we could provide them that opportunity to upskill where they are when they want to using an online version of a program of a certificate. And so the certificates are driven by market need and market demand. And market demand and market need changes. And as we all know, everything we thought about AI 3 years ago doesn't exist. We were all wrong. So we have to find ways to rapidly evolve, and this is where we use labor market data to essentially know what our evolution and update should look like going into the future. So that's a couple of ways we're using labor market data.
On yes, on that point, you touched it upon very well. You said you need to update very quickly because the labor market is changing very quickly. What are your tactics or tips for somebody that works in a university and wants to adapt their curriculum quickly when we know that universities actually are not the quickest institute at doing these things because the process takes very long?
That's a great question. I guess you want the secret sauce to it, so I guess I'm gonna have to share my secret sauce since I did offer to do this. So some of the things we think so universities, you remember, they look clumsy and slow because it's not because they want to be obstreperous about stuff, but it's because faculty really do care deeply about the student experience, and they want to make sure that everything that we provide to the student is of value in the degree. And value is brought in different ways. That there's immediate value you can get with the degree, and then sometimes there's a value you get 3 years down the line. So, for example, somebody who took a course in machine learning and learning about Bayesian statistics 6 years ago is suddenly very hot right now because now they are the AI people. And so there's short range and long range stuff. So think very deeply about this. But then also when you build market driven strategies, it's a long time to get anything approved because of that approval process. So the tactic we took was, and most schools will allow this, you can create stacks. Instead of creating 4 3 credit hour courses, you can create 12 1 credit hour courses. And each of those, it's easier to change 1 credit hour, especially if you add it as a special topics course, than to change an entire course completely. So you can do it in one hour segments or 2 hour segments or 3 hour segments, so whatever your institution allows. And when you create a whole stack of special topics, then those special topics can change. So for us, for example, we can offer a course on special topics maximum of 3 times before it needs to go on the books. But that's enough for us, gives us enough flexibility to be able to offer something 3 times. And if we feel it's got a long range to it, then we can put that on the books at that point and have another special purpose. So, tactically speaking, for credit business, that's what seems to work pretty well. And I would recommend that people really, if they're starting off new in this business, look at labor market data, match that with your existing curriculum, see what the gaps are, and then ask yourself if you want to fill those gaps by the smallest possible credential you can do that's going to be of value. So, and I add the value part to this because sometimes you are going to need 15 hours of work to learn something. You cannot teach that in 2 hours. So, and that's something that you need to collaborate with your faculty on to make sure that when you decide to do a 1.5 credit hour course, can you actually learn something of value that students can apply when they walk, when they acquire a credential, they walk out, can they learn something enough to do something? So that's the big uh,
Okay.
recommendation I would have.
Okay, so Sune, basically you're saying recommendation number one is use labor market data to drive your insights, and then
Correct.
recommendation number two is more about don't do it all at once. Start with bytes and update your learning in bytes so that it all stacks up to for the entire evolution. What's one last question from me before I'll turn it over to Giuseppe? What were the biggest challenges that you faced throughout this journey?
The biggest challenges are really going with the labor market data turned into a problem, right? Which is it gives you a snapshot, a current snapshot, and sometimes actually what you're looking at is this is some of these deep conversations I had with people on your team really about this was if the job is 90 days old, when you take a snapshot of it on Indeed, what you're getting is a snapshot of what the data looked like 90 days ago. So you get historical data. In the US, we use iPads a lot, but iPads is 2 years old. So it is kind of, sort of, and proxy for labor market, if you want to call it that, but it's not really. But what really works there better is doing better labor market analysis, right? So getting real labor market data, matching that with what an employer or current employer may want, and then importantly, lastly, of course, getting the right support among the faculty to build the content and offer these courses in a slightly different format than they're used to was the big challenge. But the nice thing about that last challenge is that once they were convinced that this was the way to make sure that we always keep our content relevant, and it's much more useful for our students to be introduced to new concepts that keeps them learning, make them learning all the time, once you get people on board, they're fine. In fact, they come back and propose ideas and say, "Hey, I was at a conference and somebody was talking about this. Can we modify a course to update it to make it better or make it match it better to a specific industry?" So that challenge, once we get past it, has been outstandingly good for us to work on that.
Yeah, getting the buy-in of different people is
So,
always
different people.
tough.
It's a village, right? It literally takes a village. I mean, it takes faculty designers, it takes instructional designers, it takes people doing labor market research, it takes marketing people looking at different personas who want to do different things. So, getting that entire group together is a
Yeah,
challenge.
and but then as you say, it takes a village, and once you get all the village on board, beautiful things can happen, like the
Yes.
ones that you guys are doing. And then on your other challenge, you mentioned about the data and what the data point says. Actually,
Yep.
we've published a new paper a few weeks ago looking at the importance of data triangulation and how you need to look at different data sets together to have a full picture of the labor market, precisely for the reasons that you're saying.
Yeah. And I think this is where the Skillify product was worked pretty well for us. And it's for people who have not used it, it's a product that evolves constantly, but it gives you a really good way to take a snapshot of what you've been teaching in your program and how does it align to live in market data. Is it perfect tool? Absolutely not. There's nothing like a perfect tool. But it at least gives you a good way, another dimension to look at your own programs and see how you need to evolve and where you need to evolve. So
Perfect. Well, thanks, Tsune. And I saw that there are a few questions, so I'm going to come back to you in the
all
Q&A
right.
section of this webinar. But now turning the attention to Giuseppe. Giuseppe, you work at the Cisco Networking Academy. Can you tell us a little bit more what the purpose of the work you're doing and what your priorities are?
Yes, thank you. So the Cisco Networking Academy is really a global program for skills to job, right? So we aim to provide high quality technical education and inclusive workforce development. So our mission is really to close these skill gaps and to equip learners to have careers in cybersecurity, networking, and emerging tech. And how we do that? We do that through public-private partnerships. So we have partnership with government, with schools, with NGO. In Italy, even we have some academies in prisons, right? Everywhere there is opportunity to serve underserved community to get this career. And we do this at scale. We have more than 12,000 partner or academies, 31,000 teacher working in this program. And we have reached already 25 million students since inception. And we are in 191 countries. So it's really a comprehensive coverage. As I mentioned, the curriculum we cover are around domain of networking, cybersecurity, AI and data science. And we provide courses from intro level up to certification level. And so we really want to meet students where they are. And I think the most important part is not necessarily the footprint, but the outcomes. So we know, based on the survey we started doing in 2025, since now, that 96% of the people who have completed a certification online course, they got a better job or an educational opportunity thanks to that offerings. So this is possible only because of the public-private partnership that make this available at scales all over the world.
That's really powerful and is a big network with a big impact. And you also are pioneers in this space in a way, because Lightcast and Cisco collaborated in 2023, I think. So at the very early stages of when Gen AI came into the labor market, to try and understand a little bit more about the impact of AI on jobs related to information technology. What were some of the key insights you found back then, and how have they been changing and informing your work?
Yeah, we've been working with Lightcast since even before, but in 2023, as you mentioned, we had a survey with our instructor because there was this perception, right, that this generative AI wave was not an hype. It was really, finally, after 70 years, changing things significantly. And so we ran this survey with our instructor. 82% of them, they said, yes, we agree that AI skills is going to be relevant for the career we prepare students for. But only 10% said we are equipped, because these are networking people, cybersecurity people, right? Not necessarily AI and machine learning expert. And so we say, okay, we need to address these, and we want to ground these on data. And so we partner with Lightcast to essentially analyze 9 different entry-level jobs that are the jobs that we as a program target, right? These are network administrator, cybersecurity analyst, data analyst, Python developer, IT support technician, this type of entry-level jobs. And with that, we got insight. Our research question is, how AI technology, this new way of AI technology, can transform these jobs, and which skills will become relevant, which skills will become less relevant, in a sense. And so we applied to that, and we discovered, right, first of all, which group of jobs were more exposed. And now it's very clear. And hindsight is all the software-centric role, like developers, data analysts, but also not intuitive one, like the network automation engineers, right? They use software, and AI is very good in writing software and also running workflows. So those are very exposed. Instead, we discovered that the technician level, because of their context of work, that is hands-on, next to the customer, close to the user, right? It's in some sense has had different level of exposure, low exposure, short term, and in between all the others, right? The traditional networking jobs and the cybersecurity job is where we find the exposure. And also another insight was that, yes, there is a common ground that we know all recognize. We talk about AI literacy, responsible use of AI, data literacy, but then there is specific skills for specific jobs depending on the context. And so we use this data and the report we created to share with our constituents, right, our instructors, to provide some data, and also to provide a methodology for them to use it, right, to reflect and open up the discussion. As Sunai was saying, right, internally, how we keep our program always up to date. As they already do it, but now we need to accelerate, right? We need to change gear and do it much faster. And last, very important, of course, we use this data in some sense like scientists use observation. So we take this data and we formulate hypotheses, right? And then we go to our, distinguished engineer, SME expert, we go to our customer, our partner, and we come with these hypotheses and open up a discussion to enrich the data, right? To triangulate the data. And as Asone was saying, also to move just from what happened to what are the trends and what's going to happen, right? As a teacher, we need to live in the future, right? Because we prepare students for 2 years, 3 years in advance. So we need to be a little bit a step ahead. So with that, we create a new course. For example, one course, Intro to Modern AI, that is Introduction to Machine Learning and AI, but with the current technology. It means with the focusing on deep learning and large language model, foundational models approach. So jumping right away in that context. And also we, other courses, right? We also have under learning at Cisco, an offering for professional, right? So they're about how to build AI solution on Cisco infrastructure. And last but not least, also evolving the certification, because now every ICT person has to have some different form of AI skills.
Thank you. That's super helpful. And I also love how you brought the research insights into the practical applications of it. One last question before I open it up to the Q&A. Throughout your process, what were the biggest challenges and what are the recommendations for somebody that's starting from scratch right now?
Well, the biggest challenge, I think, was mentioned already, right? It's the rapid speed of change. Right, that's kind of what everybody's feeling. And there is this feeling of doing, the temptation is to do what you have been doing just faster and faster. And this will bring us so far, but not too far, right? Because we can, of course, we can use AI to accelerate discovery, development, and everything, right? But there is a moment that we need to pause and rethink. Right. Okay. How we can completely rethink. So one thing that we have investing on, also connecting to what we see and other data that employer wants to higher level of experience in the young entry-level job. They look for more experience, and it's a conundrum, right? How can be someone is young graduate to have more experience? So a proxy for that is building experience in the training, right? Project-based learning or form of apprenticeship, and so that's where we are focusing on how we can. We already moved from pure knowledge to hands-on and skills. How we can provide evidence, first, how we can provide learner develop more things that are valuable in terms of experience, and a portfolio of things that they've done while in training, so that they can show the capacity to operate in the work environment. So one course I was mentioning is this Data Science Essential, that is totally project-based. It's a digital course, but it's totally project-based and has smart tutor embedded, not on the site, but embedded in what you're doing to support the students at scale and to support also teacher, right? Teaching domain area where they may maybe not feel immediately comfortable in doing project-based learning, right? But now the hypothesis is with this technology, we can scale project-based learning.
Yes, and that's so exciting because AI presents challenges but also opportunities as well. I'm looking forward to continue the discussion with Sune as well in a moment. But before we move on to the Q&A session, we got another poll for the audience. And I think some of you have already asked questions related to this, so we may be hitting a good spot. The question is, which of these AI-related capabilities or which of these skills feel most critical for your organization today? Is it the AI skills themselves, so building or knowledge of new tools? It is about having other technical skills that can enable AI-related capabilities, or is it about the foundational human skills such as critical thinking and adaptability? So, which ones feel most critical for your organization right now? And while you fill in the poll, I'm going to talk to you very briefly about some of the ways in which Lightcast can help you navigate questions related to AI and the labor market. The first way we work with organization is with Lightcast Skillaby. Sune mentioned it. It's a tool that helps measure how well an institution academic program is mapping against the labor market. And so it helps identify which are the training priorities and what are the ways in which you can update your programs to make it align to the labor market. Second tool that we have, and specifically for enterprise use cases and customers, is Talent Transform. Talent Transform is a tool that helps you create a dynamic skills architecture of your workforce to navigate disruption. And within Talent Transform, we've just recently added a new feature, the Skills Agent, which is a way to automatically update the skills that are needed for different roles based on the latest insights from the labor market. And then lastly, and Giuseppe touched upon this with the work that we've been doing together with the Cisco Networking Academy. As you know, we have a team of professional services consultants that work with organizations, both educators, policymakers, and enterprises, to create tailored insights on the impact of AI and on many other topics related to the labor market for your organization need. So whenever in doubt, get in touch to discuss any of this further. But now let's move on to see the results of the Q&A. So we ask which of these AI-related capability feels most critical. And okay, that's interesting, that split. We got 60% of the audience responding the AI skills themselves, so building the knowledge and capabilities behind the AI, but a good 34% mentioning human skills as well. And as I open up to the Q&A, I'm gonna just start from here actually and respond to a couple of Lightcast specific questions around skills before I pass it on to Sune and Giuseppe. There have been a lot of questions coming in around how we define AI skills and how we talk about other skills. And so for what concerns AI skills, we look at a list of over 300 skills that we identify from job postings, so directly from employers, and we organized in different categories depending on the topics. So we can separate generative AI from machine learning, from natural language processing, so you can see all the different nuances. But beyond that, we don't just focus on AI skills. We also capture all the skills that are needed in the labor market as part of our Lightcast skills taxonomy. And so we have been doing analysis also on how other skills are changing in the labor market. And so the first question came in from Ilen a while back was around, does Lightcast focus only on hard skills or also soft skills? And we've actually just recently published a report with American Succeed that's called Durable by Design, which looks specifically at the soft skills that are going to be needed in the future of work. So that's a nice complement of the more AI specific research that we've just published. Now, turning to my guest, first question for Sune, but I will also be interested to ask this question to Giuseppe as well. What is the latest, newest program that has been built by your organization to meet AI demand?
This was actually a certificate in AI. It was an AI ML certificate, and we knew we all, I think, were hit by the OpenAI release of ChatGPT in 2022. We luckily had got a preview of it because we built an AI TA during the COVID time, so we were all, everybody's doing everything online, right? And we had a huge problem with trying to manage student data, right? So we built an AI TA, so we kind of knew what the capacities looked like, and our employers had told us that. So we looked at labor market data for that particular uh, program to see what we need to build as a certificate with a shorter credential you can acquire within a year, and populate those, use those skills extracted from labor market data to decide on the courses you should have and how to modify the courses. The second thing we also did with that is, I'm going to give you a little bit more than you asked also, because that's the first program we built. But we also modified that program a year down the line because we looked at labor market data itself again, and what was true in 2023 is not true in 2024 or 2025. So we had to modify that again. So it's these data evolve continuously, and so in short, the program we built was an AI/ML certificate that evolves.
But yeah, the fact that Sune mentioned the same point as Giuseppe, the speed of skill change, that's
Yep,
critical. Giuseppe,
the
what
velocity is tremendous. Yeah, the velocity is tremendous of change. It's incredible.
yeah, and Giuseppe, what were your latest course? So what did you introduce?
Yeah, I mean, I was mentioning we kind of serve three markets, right? The professionals that are our network engineer, and so for that we have AI solution on Cisco infrastructure. You know how to you build, right, this AI factory, right, to run workloads, AI workloads. And then we have the future workforce, that is the students, right? And on the netacad.com, it's the networking academy. And for them, we have the intro to modern AI, as I mentioned, as a literacy part. And now we're moving from use AI to build with AI, right? How you organize, for example, agentic workflow, agent, etc., etc. And there are many others to come, right? Specifically for specific job roles.
Amazing, thank you. And Nick asked, is there an assessment for students to gauge their current AI skills? Who'd like to take this one? Sune, maybe I start with you and then we go to Giuseppe.
Um, so I personally have not. I'll be honest. I've not gone and looked for an inventory to see what student skills are. But what I did do is, I used three different tools and asked them, "What do you think that inventory should look like?" And you'll get slightly different answers. So I used Claude, I used ChatGPT, and I used Perplexity to see, to generate an instrument for me to see what I can administer to my students to see what AI skills they have and what AI skills they have, and also ask the GPTs to question me about what does AI mean, really, right? Because it comes very broadly. So you'll find people who are old like me who will get annoyed with some of this because what AI, when people say AI now, they typically mean an LLM. But some of us working in expert systems thought of that as AI, right, in the 90s. So we built an instrument by using ChatGPT, really, or the GPTs you have access to figure out what that survey should look like and what student skills look like in terms of the context of AI tools that they're using, right? Just to be pointed out something before, interestingly, right? That there's two groups of people. There's applications. In fact, maybe it was Elena, you maybe said it. Maybe both of you said it. There's the field is about people who are hardcore, and I mean this very lovingly, nerds who want to build tools and understand the engines that drive this. And then there's people who are expert users. and they're not necessarily the same. And the need for having these people who can actually leverage the tools for being creating administrative processes, efficiency in administrative processes, design processes, or any other thing you do is equally critical now as having somebody who understands the build systems, right? In fact, I would argue that the latter part groups have become much more critically important. I think Elena, you pointed out that people who have any kind of AI skill, it's a 28% premium, right, on a salary. And I'm sure Giuseppe, you've seen that too. So.
Yeah, and I think that's also partly why we need to go is find a way to measure whether people have AI skills. Do you do anything
Yeah.
of this, any related to this, Giuseppe?
Can you tell me? Can you say again what was the question?
Yeah, whether you do any assessments of what skills, AI skills, your students have.
That's a good question. Um, well, I mean, in the context of the courses, yes, we have kind of adaptive assessment in general, not specifically for AI. Adaptive assessment to kind of help students at the beginning of the pathway assess their skills, and then during the course and at the end. Yeah, but I think I mean I misunderstood a little bit, but maybe one thing that it's an application of AI. It's when the students are authorized to use AI for doing their work projects, right? Then one thing I recommend to them is at the end of a conversation that they have with the chatbot, to at the end use a prompt. Say, based on what we have discussed, what should have learned, and ask me question, elicit high-level thinking to validate that I've learned. Because sometimes one of the problems is that they kind of get what they need in that moment, and they may forget, right? They may completely. So it's not necessarily assessment, but it's a kind of a form of self-assessment for them to make sure that when they learn when they use augmentation with AI, and they don't just become more and more just reliant on AI tools for doing the works.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Before we go on to a few more other questions, there's one last poll for you to answer in the poll feature on the right. So have a look in there. And then another question that I saw coming was, and I think it's very interesting given what we were just talking about. Are you developing or considering separate credential for tech versus non-tech roles for the same AI skills? And how do we tackle that? I know you both come from very, let's say, tech-heavy backgrounds, but how would you approach this question? Maybe this time we start from Giuseppe and then we go to Sune.
No, I think that's a very valid point, right? That's a very valid point. A lot of technology has been like that, right? Cybersecurity, it's something that is for everyone, right? Like cyber hygiene. But for AI, it's different. It's much more an enabler, right? It's not just that you have to have on the side. So I think it makes sense, right, to have different certification for technical skills, mentioning right infrastructure, kind of application point of view, security, right, and also for kind of business processes or business application or general use, right, on your day-by-day work, right? Makes sense.
I completely agree. I mean, it's the we what we have started looking at is this idea of, do we need to introduce an applications course in our Master of Computer Science? And the applications, I mean, how to use the tools correctly to do things, and how do you apply them broadly for efficiency. So um, it's not easy because most of the time we look at students using AI and think it's pleasures of the cheating, whatever the heck it is, right? So we don't necessarily walk them through this idea of, you can use this correct way of using them. And the reason that you need to have taken a data structures course is that when you get something from an AI tool, you need to be able to validate the tool. So we try to point out to them that the role of the human is to validate the tool. The tool doesn't validate you, you validate the tool. And that's why you need to have base knowledge. And so we have started really looking at that, thinking this idea of, do we need to add some quick 1 credit hour snapshots of applying using AI tools for solving business challenges, business processes, design challenges, something in that order, because we do think that that's going to be of value. So um, if we talk again early next year, I might have something for you to share.
Yeah, and there are different, I guess there are also different skills, the skills that you need to build the AI tools versus the skills that you need to use the AI tools.
Correct.
So there's a value in both of them. I think we got time maybe for one last question. There's one that asks about whether we're seeing entry-level jobs being impacted, as a New York Times feature a few weeks ago. Giuseppe, maybe start with you, then Sune, and then I can also share a little bit of the insights that we got from Lightcast perspective.
Yeah, I mean, interesting when we did the analysis. Yes, we saw that some entry level job have opportunity to be transformed, and then the point is very nuanced, right? Because transformed doesn't mean automated. It means that you need different skills and you will be doing different things instead of the task will change, and therefore also the skills. And on the other side, there is a lot of conversation, right, at the New York, but there is many different outlets that have taken this topic, especially when the Federal Reserve published this young graduate unemployment rate that was 4.8, something that was higher than the average of every worker, and so that triggered the discussion. I think it's very nuanced, right? It's not the first time that happened, and also there's many other factors that are happening. We came from a big wave of post-pandemic. There is uncertainty in the market, so it's not easy to say AI is the reason why young graduates are struggling to find job, but we need to definitely to keep a strong eye, and one thing, I mean, from Lightcast data that I've seen, it's this need of higher form of experience, right? In some sense, that's how I interpret, right? I interpret the ask for more seniority. We need people that can ship, right? That can do the work, right? In some sense, that they need less supervision right now. That's my take of that.
Yeah, and we've done a bit of work on that. So Sune, you go, and then I'll close it off.
Yeah, I don't think I could add anything more to what just being eloquently said. Right, is that there's subtlety in this. Has there been a change because of AI in employability for base early graduates? Probably, but where and how that's shaped, we don't necessarily have a great handle on it. We do know that the CS job market has changed a bit, and where we see that change happening a lot more is, at least this is anecdotal. Smaller companies that used to hire software engineers have kind of started lowering their hiring because they are using coding tools, and one decent software engineer with five coding tools to try and fill that gap and save some money. We are not necessarily seeing that yet, I believe, in the medium to large size companies. Right? So again, this is anecdotal. This is student. We ask students, "What do you think?" This is what they're telling us, but it's a very subtle look at what's happening in the businesses. I think it'll become much more clear. Like Powell or a favorite Fed leader also said that it's going to take few years for us to know what's happening, right? So I'm in the same category.
I mean, I was going to make a joke about that, and now we should have a regroup again in a few months' time again to see how things have changed for the 100th time in the last couple of years. So yeah, I mean, that's the key point. At least I take away from your contributions as well, is that the speed of change is speeding up, and so we need to continue to prepare and to monitor what's happening so that we can prepare workers and students for what's coming. So I think I'd like to close it on that note. I want to thank you, both of you, Sune, Giuseppe. Thank you so much for your contributions to today's panel, and also Thank you for all of you that have joined us today. If we didn't get to answer your questions in the content or in the Q&A portion, we will try to follow up with you. Otherwise, you can expect an email from our team soon with the access to the recording and all the other materials that have been discussed during the presentation. Again, Giuseppe, Sune, thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, and bye for now.
Thank you.